In this video, I'm going to introduce you to the Kubler-Ross change curve. It's an incredible model to really understand what happens to us as human beings when we get forced into change. Because there's a curve that we go through, and there's certain parts of the curve where you can't move forward. You've got to get through that. So once you understand that, that can help you. So let me take you through that now with some slides, and I'll see you at the other side. The Kubler-Ross change curve comes from the work of Elizabeth Kubler-Ross and her daughter when they looked at the effect of bereavement on people. But what we've actually discovered is this fits incredibly when there's any change happens in the world, whether it's a crisis, whether it's redundancy, whether it's a shock about something. So it doesn't just fit in with bereavement, it fits in with any type of change. So as you can see here, we start with, on the left hand side, we're talking about the emotional response, and this is a rational response that happens to begin with. So the first quadrant there is really concern for the past and potential losses. And then we move. So first of all, it's rational. And people, no matter how prepared someone is for change, they will still go into shock and denial. Now, some people go through this change in 2 minutes. Some people are still going through the change 20 years after something happened. There's no right way or no wrong way to do this, but when you understand this curve, it helps you get over any sort of shock that happens through sudden change. So we then move into the emotional response. You go into anger, blame, bargaining, and right at the bottom of the curve, apathy. This is when people's energy drops completely and they really can't move forward at all. So until you have gone through the first part of the curve, you cannot start to move the second. When you're at the bottom there, you start to move from potential losses. The brain gets used to that and starts to move into concern for the future and then potential gains. So you work, this starts to go, we're still very much in emotional response, but you're accepting. You start to explore. And you get to this lovely stage of when you move from understanding, that's when performance starts to happen. That's when people are capable of moving again. So the Kubler-Ross change curve, there's plenty. We're going to go into in a little bit more detail, but this is something, understanding this really helps you understand what happens through change. So the first stage, disbelief, shock and denial. This is when change becomes real for people and the need for information and time to understand what's happening. Very often people go through this a lot when they're made redundant. So they know the redundancy is coming, but when they actually realise it's you or it's them, that's when the shock comes in. And the first thing that tends to happen is disbelief and then denial. No, this can't be happening. This is when you need answers to questions. And just because someone has known about a change for some time doesn't mean they've accepted it. So at this point of time, people need to know the next stage. They need to know what happens next. So you'll find yourself, if this is happening to you, you'll be asking lots of questions. If it's happening for someone else, they will tend to be, why? And the most natural and most human response in the world is, why me? So this is the inbuilt desire to have questions answered. Stage 2, people may start to feel concern, anger, resentment or fear. They will resist the change. Oh, it's too different. They don't want to move, express their feelings and even vent anger. This is when people are at the highest emotional state in the change curve. Reactions to change are personal to people. There's no right or no wrong way, but it's understanding there has to be an emotional part when people are going through change. What you can do to help is listen and watch carefully to what's going on and be ready to deal with the unexpected. Now, what can happen here is someone who is normally timid and nervous and unsure about things, maybe lives in a state of fear, can all of a sudden become really, really courageous. Or someone who you may think they'll be able to handle that, they're strong, fall apart. It doesn't make anyone weak or stronger with these reactions. It's just people will react in the way that's right for them. Stage 3 is the turning point. This is where people accept the change is inevitable, and they will still test what the change means and often need time to do this. So if something happens like losing a job, we don't expect anyone to be up and running and moving within 2 days. Some people can do it, but most people need a little bit of time. It's called, I like to call it processing time. Just time to process the information and process what's happening so they can start to go to the next stage. Now, at this stage, support is crucial, and this is when you start to lay the foundations and make sure that people are well trained. So this is when you can start to look at your skills. What training can you maybe be going through? What things do you need to learn to move yourself to the next stage? Because energy starts to come back at this point. Give people time to get up to speed as they're still learning the new ways of doing things. So you can't rush someone through this stage. Just allow them to take the time they need to take to start coming back into the energy levels that can allow them to start learning what the new stage is going to be. Stage 4, the change becomes integrated. People start to see improvements and understand the value of why the change took place. That might not happen quickly, but sometimes people say, well, no, I understand. And especially in redundancy, very often, once people get to this stage, they go, yeah, well, I actually understand why I was made redundant. They understand why the changes had to take place. Productivity increases, energy increases, and people become a lot more positive. This is when you help someone celebrate success, because when people feel valued, listened to and understood, they feel connected in organisation, or they feel connected with their family, feel connected with life. Feel connected with the future, and also feel connected with new ways they can start moving on. So once you come through the change, you're ready for your new beginning. One of the ways you can help people through the change curve is with empathy. Empathy is the ability to recognise emotions that are being experienced by another person. In other words, to walk a mile in their shoes. Do listen, ask open-ended questions, respond without judgment, use words and gestures to show that you care, validate feelings of others, be authentic and genuine. Do not offer advice unless asked, judge, criticise, agree with something someone says if you don't. So this is when you have to be authentic. So if someone's saying something and you really don't agree with it, you go, yes, yes, yes. That's patronising. What you need people at this point of time is just to be held in a space where you absolutely are empathetic to what's happening and give them time and space without judgment, without criticism, just to come to terms with whatever's happened and move on. Okay, I hope you found that useful, and in the next video we'll be looking at different things, different strategies to really help you move forward at this time.